Hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name is Brett Pontecorvo, and this week we have a super special week because if you've been following Gig Performer on any of the various channels, you will know that we have just released a brand new version of Gig Performer called Gig Performer Essentials. And today we're going to be talking all about Gig Performer Essentials, what it is, and how to use it, why you might want to use it. If you are watching right now, do say hello in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'd see we've got Arthur Morgan in the stream. Arthur, thanks for being with us. We've got Murray Young from Canada. Hello, and thank you for being with us. Nemanja is here as well. Nemanja, one of our Gig Performer team members. And Arthur wishes that we would do a tutorial on how to correctly use the MIDI file player. We are going to cover a little bit of the MIDI file player today, so you may be in for a treat on that one. Man, I used to listen to a comedian who said, "You're not pronouncing my name correctly." Wish I could remember what it was. That's a flashback. Let's see. We've got Dave Bolden in the stream. Hello. Welcome, Dave. Got Davide Bosco from Italia and TJ Keys from Northern California. And, of course, David Jameson as well, hiding in the Zoom room behind the stream. If you are watching right now, I know we've said our hellos. If you are a brand new Essentials user, do let us know that as well. And if you are considering Essentials, perhaps you are trying to figure out what Essentials is all about, you could let us know that as well, and we are here to talk all about it. So let's go ahead and jump in to our content. So today we are talking all about Gig Performer Essentials. What is Gig Performer Essentials? Well, Gig Performer Essentials is a streamlined, curated version of our flagship product, which is Gig Performer. It's a powerful plugin host that allows you to host your plugins in an intuitive wiring view, which we will demonstrate specifically today. It allows you to organize your sounds into songs, which we'll also demonstrate today, control external gear from your laptop, and a whole host of other things as well. Gig Performer Essentials is for guitar players. It is for bass players. It is for vocalists. It is for front of house engineers. And of course for keyboard players. We get a little double image here because Marty in that picture, if you know who Marty is both playing and singing simultaneously. So we created Gig Performer Essentials for people who want that power and flexibility that Gig Performer has to offer, but don't need the more advanced capabilities of Gig Performer. People who are not looking to write their own custom scripts, people who are not looking to change between rigs constantly, people who need the performance set. You need to be able to build your sounds and perform live in a stable environment. So that's who Gig Performer Essentials is for, and there's a lot of stuff I don't want to skip out on. So if you have any questions as I move through, please feel free to stop me. But we are going to jump right into how all of this works. If you've been a Gig Performer user for a long time, then this will be a brush up on some foundational features. But if you're totally new to Gig Performer, then this will be a great way to get started and jumping in. Let's see here. TJ Keys, looking at features to recommend to newbies. I am a current user. Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right. So this is Gig Performer Essentials, and you'll notice that it looks exactly the same as the full version of Gig Performer. So if you're familiar with the layout, then this is what it is. On the left-hand side, you'll see we've got our rack spaces, and this is where we build sounds, which we'll do a little bit of today. We've also got this front panel over here, which we'll talk about in depth. This front panel is where you build controls for your sounds. Then we've got the wiring view, and this is actually where a lot of the magic happens, in my opinion. This is where you connect your plugin blocks together with wires. And then, of course, we have setlist view, which we'll look at as well. This is where you can take all of the sounds that you built and put them in performance order. So if you are playing in a band that has a pre-made set list and you know exactly what you're going to play, this feature will be super handy for you. And you can move out of order too. but that's for video number 2. So let's start by talking a little bit about building sound number 1. If you get Gig Performer Essentials, you probably are trying to play sounds either virtual or hardware. But let's set up our very first virtual sound here. So if you toggle over to the wiring view, you are going to see a couple of blocks. You're going to see this red block up here. So guitar players, you are going to want to use this block, and I will build a sound for you as well. This is where you can pull audio in and route it through your effects. And keyboard players, you may be more concerned with this block, which is your MIDI in Omni block. This block is going to receive MIDI information from any keyboard that's plugged in. So if we want to build our first sound and you are brand new to Gig Performer, all you need to do is right mouse click and it's going to pop up any VSTs that you have installed on your computer. Now don't worry if you don't have any VSTs installed on your computer, because Gig Performer comes pre-installed with a few things we're going to look at today. The first thing that we're going to look at is keys of the 70s, because they have a piano sound. And the second thing we're going to look at is a brand new addition to Gig Performer Essentials, which is really exciting, called Synth Master, which comes with over 1,000 presets that you can use to get started. So if you are brand new to playing with VSTs, you don't need to have any on your own. We've got some VSTs built in already. So I'm going to mouse over Lost in 70s, which is who makes the keys of the 70s, and choose keys of the 70s. And that's going to bring in this block little here, which represents a VST, which looks like this. Now all I have to do is connect together from my MIDI in block two keys of the 70s, and from the output of keys of the 70s to my audio interface. I missed that. Boop. Okay. So now when I play the keys on my keyboard, I am getting sound. So for those of you who are familiar with physically plugging in gear, blocks to wires, Gig Performer follows the exact same pattern. As soon as everything is connected, you get your sound. But what's nice about this is you can actually start to layer things really quickly. So if you wanted to add another sound, you could right mouse click and maybe go to the KV331 and choose our Synth Master player. Now this is brand new addition to Gig Performer Essentials. And when you open this up, you will see that there are a whole host of different presets that you can choose from that are going to just give you sound right away. So you can preview these sounds. If we go through here into strings, on the left-hand side, we've got all of the different sounds, and you can pick one. And I'm going to exit out of this window just for saving space and actually just wire it up the exact same way. And if I hold down Shift, those wires will connect. I have a feeling this patch is going to be loud, so I'm going to turn it down. You can see sound is flowing. Oh, I know why we're not hearing it. Wrong channel. Here we go. Boom. Boom. Yeah, there we go. So that is how you can build a very simple sound. Now, you probably will want to be able to control some things, and that is extremely easy in Gig Performer. To do that, all you need to do is toggle over to the front panel and choose Edit. You'll see on the left-hand side, we have lots of different colored sliders and widgets, and if you like one that you see, you can just drag it over, and it becomes a movable, resizable widget on your front panel here, which can then be mapped to any parameter you like inside of Gig Performer. So on the bottom right, you'll see this thing here that says plugins, and you can choose what you want to control. So I'm going to choose keys of the 70s and click Learn Parameter. And when I do that, it's going to open up the window so I can choose anything that I would like to learn. So I'm going to move this output volume, and you'll see now, when I move that, the widget is changing. So I now have the ability to adjust the sound volume. I'll bypass this just to make it a bit clearer. of that VST directly from my front panel. Now, if you're looking at that thinking, well, that's great, but I actually don't want to click and drag, then you are in luck, because you don't need to in Gig Performer. There are actually a couple of ways you can go about doing this. One of them is just by simple MIDI mapping. So if I come into edit mode and click on this widget, I can go down here and choose MIDI, MIDI learn, and I can move anything I like on a connected MIDI controller, and Gig Performer is going to automatically see that. And so now, without using my mouse, I have the ability to change the volume via that widget. You can map widgets to any mappable parameter inside of a VST, so you don't have to worry too much about if you will be able to it. All capable VSTs are going to allow you to map, and this is a really simple way for you to build a basic sound inside of Gig Performer Essentials. But if you're watching right now, you might not be a piano player. You might be a guitar player. And if that's the case, Gig Performer Essentials also has you covered, because included with Gig Performer Essentials is a special version of a guitar plugin created by Overloud called THU. So if I right mouse click and click on THU, it's going to drop in a blue block, which you'll be able to see. And this is what Overloud THU's plugin looks like. So you'll see we have a couple of different options here for pre-made sounds that can be used. And of course, I am not a guitar player, and so unfortunately, I can't fully demo the guitar functionality. But what I can do is bring in a piano plugin and route that through THU, just to give you an idea of what this actually will do. So, when I play this sound now, as I choose these different presets, you'll have all of those given effects, and they are pretty good. I really like THU, and THU is actually one of our partners, so if you like the sound of Overloud THU and you really want to upgrade to a fully fledged version of THU, you can do so with a 10% discount through our partners page. Now, one thing to note, I'm not going to do this because it will cause all sorts of terrible feedback, but if you are a guitar player, instead of going from this piano block, you'll actually need to draw a wire from your audio input into THU if you're not dealing with MIDI. So same thing goes if you're a vocalist. If you're trying to do your effects, that's going to need to come in through your audio interface. Okay, so we've already covered just making some very simple sounds and making some simple effects. What if you happen to be somebody who plays with backing tracks and you want to use Gig Performer in order to play your backing tracks while you are playing? Gig Performer has two ways that you can do this, but the most compelling way, and the way that I think if you're playing with backing tracks you should probably use, is by making use of Gig Performer's streaming audio file player. So you'll notice in this particular rack space, I have nothing loaded. And the reason for that is the streaming audio file player is best used in something called the global rack space. And in Gig Performer, the global rack space functions just like any other rack space would, but it's available no matter what sound you have selected. So if you want to play piano and organ on a given song, having the streaming audio file player inside the global rack space allows you to hear the sounds of your backing tracks while you're playing various different instruments. So you would insert the streaming audio file player the same way you would insert a VST. If you right mouse click, you'll see up here we have internal plugins, and these are all of the plugins that come included with Gig Performer. If I go over here to media players, I can choose streaming audio file player, and that will pull in Gig Performer's streaming audio file player, which looks like this. Into this window, you can drag as many tracks as you would like, and because this is a streaming audio file player, there is never any, or there's very minimal CPU usage. So you can have thousands of songs loaded into your streaming audio file player and have a very minimal effect on your computer's resources. So just as an example, I pulled in some stem tracks. And here's a simple drum track created using Songmaster Pro. And there's a great Backstage episode of one of the creators of Songmaster Pro talking about using Songmaster with Gig Performer. But this is just a simple drum track playing in the background. And you'll see on the right-hand side, we have all of our standard transport controls. And if I want to switch songs, I can just click to the next one and hit play. And if you know that song, go ahead and let us know what song that was in the comments. We'll see if the users can pick it up before the YouTube algorithm coming to demonetize our stream. Arthur Morgan wrote in, why is it called the streaming audio file player? And the reason for that, Morgan, is that it is streaming the audio files directly from your disk. And this is preferable to loading the audio files into your RAM because it is gentler on your computer, freeing up resources for you to play. So let me exit out of these windows here. Okay, this is our global rack space. So we've gone through our streaming audio file player, but what's really cool about the streaming audio file player is if you check out this little tab over here, you'll see we've got a markers list view. And using markers, you're actually able to control a pretty good sampling of different parameters inside of Gig Performer. All right, we've got former Backstage guest Ray Myers coming in to say it was Tom Sawyer. You are correct. So let's have a look here. As this playhead goes across the timeline, you have the ability to insert markers. So if I click this little guy here, you'll see it adds a little marker on your timeline and creates a marker down here. Now, to the right of these markers, you will see a little thing that says actions. And if I click on this, it's going to open up. Oh, there it is. Wait. Can see it on the stream, but not on my computer. Here it is. Okay. The action management window. And what this window allows you to do inside of Gig Performer Essentials is switch different parameters. So let's say this particular backing track has two different sounds you would like to make use of. You can choose switch to rack space, and it's going to allow you to choose from the rack spaces you have loaded into this gig file which ones you want to use and when you want to use them. Meaning, if you are a backing tracks user, you no longer need to change your patches manually. You can insert markers on our timeline and then change those sounds automatically while you're playing. So I'm going to choose piano and hit OK. And just so you can see what's happening, if I start playback here, oops, you'll see as soon as that playhead passed the marker, over here on the left-hand side, my track changed. Now, of course, if I wanted to have a second patch change here, I could use a similar process where I choose switch to rack space, and then maybe I choose my guitar sound. So if we do the same type of function here, we'll hit play. And we get our patch switches 100% automated for us. Now, there are a few other things that are handy that you might want to have a look at. You can display a message. So if you need a little reminder when it starts, you can have this set up inside of your track to pop up. You can turn your metronomes on and off. You can set the global BPM. So if you want to have your effects synced to time, you can take the BPM and just load that in. So all of your timed effects automatically switch. And this is all available inside of Gig Performer Essentials so that you have the ability to automate what it is you're doing. Now, I know I'm moving through things pretty quickly. I'm about to transition into the MIDI file player. And so if anything that I've done so far feels confusing, overwhelming, you have any questions, or you have questions about a specific use case that you're curious about, do feel free to put that into the comments. I'm happy to talk through anything that would be helpful. So included with Gig Performer Essentials is the MIDI file player. And Gig Performer's MIDI file player is extremely powerful and gives you a lot of functionality all built in. So let's have a look at what is possible. Now, in some of my performing days, I played a lot of musical theater. And so what I did for today is I got a backing track of Giants in the Sky. And if you know what musical Giants in the Sky is from, go ahead and let us know that in the comments as well. So I'm going to play this track. I should tell you what you see first. So I've dragged in one MIDI track. So I see a question from Ray Myers. David, I don't know the answer to that question. You want to look at that one? Giants in the Sky, one single MIDI track I've dragged in, and you'll see over here on the right-hand side, all of the different channels that were in that MIDI file appear. So I've got track 0, main accompaniment, melody, viola, oboe, piccolo, and this is all coming in from a MIDI file. So if I play it, you'll see everything go out, and I've got it just set up to keys of the 70s. So we'll hear that in a second. I have no samples loaded. Here we go. Very Sondheim. Okay, so all of that's happening, and that's all well and good, and there is a world in which that's all you would need. However, the MIDI file player actually gives you a lot more power than that because you can separate all of these tracks by channel. So if I wanted to have my main accompaniment and my melody on two different sounds, I could come in here and choose map, and it's going to give me a box now that will let me select what MIDI channel I would like to send a particular track to. So I'm going to send my main accompaniment to channel 1, but I'm going to send my melody to channel 2. Now, inside of Gig Performer, I can add another sound. So I'm going to do keys of the 70s. Here's my second one, and I'm going to drag a wire in and route it out. And I'll have this sound now. Let's see. Be a vibraphone. Okay, I'm going to hit play, and we'll see how this goes. Cool. So using this feature and this functionality, you have the ability to have one MIDI file triggering multiple instruments. And so for some users, it would be preferable to go this route, because if you want to change a sound of a particular track, you have the ability to change out those sounds without having to rebounce your audio file down. So this is a really powerful option for people. And one other thing that I think might be worth talking through here is this. So in Gig Performer, we have something called a MIDI channel constrainer. And the keys of the 70s are responding to anything on any channel, but certain VSTs only respond to MIDI coming in on a very specific channel. And so if you need the MIDI on channel 2 to go to channel 1 in your VST, you have the ability to do that using a MIDI channel constrainer. So I'm going to insert this in the path by just holding down Shift and letting go. And if I double click on that, then I have this window that comes up, and that gives me the ability to remap these MIDI channels. So if I want to use a different output channel, I can say anything that comes in on channel 2 will go out on channel 1. And so if you're using a VST that responds to stuff on a particular channel only, you can still use the MIDI file player, but you don't need to have things only go out on channel 1. It can receive the VST on whatever channel is needed. So I think this is really handy, and we do have some other videos on some more very cool features about the MIDI file player, but if you're just getting started with essentials, this will absolutely have you off to the races. Now, I know there are some folks who really like to control their external gear. And at Gig Performer, we've been talking a lot about how Gig Performer creates environments for people to perform. And if you're using external gear, even if you never use any VSTs, Gig Performer is a very powerful option for you, because using Gig Performer Essentials will allow you to control all of your hardware. And so you get the same flexibility that you would get using Gig Performer with the sounds that you maybe have become accustomed to when you're using your hardware. So I've created a rack space here, and I know all of this was pre-done, so I'll talk through really what you're looking at. But this is a rack space designed to control external gear. Now, I don't actually have an external gear set up right now, but what we can do is simulate external gear using a separate program. So I'm going to toggle over to the wiring view and explain what's happening. Gig Performer has a special block called a MIDI out block. So if I right mouse click and go over here to MIDI outputs, you'll see I've got all of my MIDI output ports pop up, and I can choose any one that I like. Now, in this example, what I chose was a MIDI output to a virtual port. And that allows me to send MIDI through something called an IAC driver. And if you've never heard of an IAC driver before, basically that lets you send MIDI between programs on a Mac. Again, keep in mind that I'm trying to simulate external gear here. So this would be like selecting your Korg Kronos or your Roland, whatever keyboard it is that you love. So this is a simulation, but if you have external gear, that's the gear that you would be selecting. Now, these MIDI in blocks have some very powerful features that allow you to control your hardware. So, oops, I've lost my window. So, here's what we have going on. I have the option to rechannelize my incoming MIDI messages if I would like. I have the option to create keyboard splits if I would like. And I also have the option to send MIDI data when I open this rack space. So if you have a rack space that you want to use to play something you've built on your hardware keyboard, in here you could actually put, if you'd like, a program change message or sysx or whatever it is that you need to control your particular instrument. And when you load this rack space in Gig Performer, your hardware is automatically going to change to the right sound for you to play it. So in this case, what I've done is I've created two MIDI out blocks, one going to channel 1 and one going to MIDI channel 2. And you can see that up here on the top. I've also created two keyboard splits, so one for the bottom half and one for the top half. And this will allow me to have two different sounds on two different channels in an external program. So I'm going to go ahead and pull Ableton up. We'll move that to the other screen. And realizing my audio is going to the wrong place, so we'll switch that. So as a proof of concept here, you can see MIDI is coming in Gig Performer from my Studio SL. And when I hit a key here, you can see these wires flashing, which indicate that MIDI is coming in. Now, when I toggle over to Ableton Live, which is my simulated external gear, you'll see up here on the top, MIDI is coming in. And over here, you'll see my MIDI is from that virtual port. So Ableton is not actually receiving information from the keyboard directly. It's receiving information just from what's coming out of Gig Performer. And so as I press keys, which I can show you the layout of this, be helpful. As I press keys on my keyboard, I'm getting those two different sounds. So my left hand triggering sound number 1 on channel 1, and my right hand triggering sound number 2 on channel 2. And so the same way you would set up different sounds on different MIDI channels in a hardware board, that's what I've done inside of Ableton Live. But there's actually more that Gig Performer can do with external gear that I want to show you. I've created another block here. This is a MIDI out block. Same exact thing. But it is just labeled control, and you don't actually have to do the extra block, but it kind of helps separate things in my mind. And I've added 2 widgets to my front panel. So one of them is sending a CC14 message, and one is sending a CC15 message. I'm actually going to just rebuild that so that you can see how it's done. I'll drag in a pad. And I'm going to choose that control option from the bottom right and choose CC14. And so now, anytime I hit this button, MIDI is going to be sent out to Ableton or whatever program or hardware you are using. And in this case, since I'm using Ableton, you'll see when this button is fired, it's going to start a clip. And if I want that to stop, and I don't want to have to look at the software I'm controlling, I can simply map another button to a different message. And when I click that one, it stops the clock. So yes, somebody just asked what a CC message is. It's a control change message. It's something that if you've used MIDI before, you're probably familiar with. And if you haven't been using MIDI before, control changes are really helpful for mapping just about any parameter. They're pretty transparent, and most CC messages can be used for most things. Although if you go back, there is some standardization around which CCs are supposed to do which things. So this is our external gear control, and this would work for any type of hardware controller that you would like to use. So this is just kind of a brief overview of how Gig Performer Essentials works and what you can do with it and who it's for. I want to save a little bit of time right now. If there are questions about anything we've talked through, or if you need a further demonstration of any of these things, please feel free to put that in the comments. I'd be happy to answer those questions live. And while I wait for that, in case there are any questions, I do want to show our templates. So Gig Performer Essentials now comes included with 3 brand new templates that I'm pretty excited about. So if you come down to File and choose New, you can choose a new gig from template. And it's going to pop up all of the available templates. Now, if you're a Gig Performer user and you've been for a while, we still have included many of the same templates, but we've got these new ones up top. So if you come down here to where it says setlists, this gives a really cool example of how Gig Performer can work in context. And a common workflow in Gig Performer is building sounds inside of your rack spaces and then moving those sounds into setlist view. So let me just make sure my audio, yep, okay. So you'll see over here on the left, I've got a couple of different things set up. So here's a piano sound. And by the way, all of these sounds come included with gigperformer, so this will work right out of the box. I've got a couple of different variations, which is basically saving widget settings. So you'll see as I click through, we get our different piano sounds. I also have got strings here with effects, some organ, E-piano, and here is a split. I guess that's a layer. That's a split. So all of these sounds are created using SynthMaster or keys of the 70s, and they are processed in many cases using THU. Now, once you've built your pool of sounds, which in this case, piano strings, organ, electric piano, 80 synth strings, what you can do is you can come over to setlist view. And in setlist view, we've got a couple of pre-made songs for you to see how all of this works. So in any given song, you can essentially assign song parts to sounds. I'm going to move my face here because I'm a little bit covered. So you'll see here when I come into a tune, on the bottom, there are all of our rack spaces. And so for intro, I've got global rack space, which is where I have my piano sound. Verse is the same, but when I move to chorus, I have this different setup here. And that's because what I want to have happen is I want to have access to piano on the lower half of my keyboard, which I'll pull up here. So down here, I've got that piano sound, and up here, organ. So as I move through song parts, instead of thinking, oh, what I'd really like to be able to do is have this split, and choosing the split, inside of gigperformer, all I have to do is choose the part of the song that I'm on, and those sounds are going to switch for me automatically, which is pretty compelling. Don't Stop Believing has a similar thing going on where I've got piano, which is just a simple variation of my original piano sound, and then the chorus sound, similar vibes, just switching our particular sounds. It looks like we've got some questions coming in, and I do still have 2 more templates to show you, but we'll kind of back and forth here between questions and templates. So Arthur Morgan says, I have a question about the MIDI file player. So I tried to play the MIDI file through the VST keyscape, but I didn't get audio or anything, even though there were MIDI messages going through. My guess is that Keyscape is one of those VSTs that is very MIDI channel specific. And so I would check your MIDI channels to make sure your MIDI channel is appropriately set. You can also look at the wires, because inside of gigperformer, and I'll show you this. If I play a key, you're seeing here this light up. So if you see MIDI flowing out, then the MIDI file player is working. It's sending your MIDI. But if the VST keyscape is not responding, I am pretty sure that is because something about the MIDI channels inside of keyscape is not properly set. I think that's the strongest likelihood. And I've worked with some folks who are using keyscape. They have very customizable MIDI channels to do some cool things, but in cases like this, when you just want everything coming through on a channel or 2 channels, you need to make sure you're intentionally setting them. Okay, so this is our setlist view example inside of gigperformer, but we actually also have 2 other templates that are worth going through. And again, if you're watching like Arthur and you have some questions that you want to get answered on the stream, do feel free to pop those questions in the comments and I would be happy to answer them. So the very first template that we have is SynthMaster, and SynthMaster has provided 1,000 presets for Gig Performer users that come pre-installed. So I'm going to start with the single sounds. SynthMaster has a wide array of sounds, and so inside of this template, we've put together a bunch of different sounds that I think are pretty usable. This is called an 80s pluck sound, and you'll see the front panel has a whole bunch of different widgets that you can customize. So over here, if we move through our variations, you'll hear we have our different sounds. And you can actually create your own variations. So if you like a sound, but you want to have something slightly different, what you can do is hit this plus and choose new variation. And you can start playing with the settings of these widgets. And that example is going to be stored now. So anytime I come back to it, it's going to be there ready to use for you. So not only does this give you a way to tour through a bunch of different sounds, but it also gives you a way to kind of hear what's available inside of SynthMaster. Okay, we've got another question coming in from Nick. Let's see here. What is the best way to connect an Android tablet to display lyrics driven by Gig Performer? I tried wireless, but I haven't figured that out yet. This question might be more in-depth than what I can answer on the stream. And the reason for that is there are a lot of dependencies. Are you using your Android tablet as a second monitor and displaying using Gig Performer's built-in lyrics? In which case, you just move it to the other screen. Are you using a different platform to host your lyrics? If so, then there's going to be some involvement on the part of that particular program, whatever it is that you're using, how that accepts messages. But largely, the workflow when you're trying to control a tablet is you need to have some connection. If you want to do the cable, that's probably the way to go. And then you're sending out MIDI messages to change whatever is displayed. Oftentimes that's a program change message, but again, depending on what software you're using, that's going to vary. So mobile sheets on tablet. Yeah. So we did a full live stream all about mobile sheets, which I encourage you to go back and look at because it's broken down in detail from the creator himself exactly how to control mobile sheets from Gig Performer. So do check that out. I think that will probably be more useful than me trying to answer that question. And I see David has also shared a helpful article that will definitely help you get going. Okay, let's pop back over to Gig Performer. So here's our example. Some different sounds here. Turn that volume down. Got some harpsichord. Some horns. Bells. Mono lead. and some strings. Okay, now something that's important to note about all of these preset sounds is if you like them, you have some options for adding them to your gig file. So the first thing that you can do, if you'd like, is you can right mouse click any gig file that any rack space that you like and choose export selected rack space. And that will allow you to bring the entire rack space into a gig file just by coming in here and choosing import rack space. So if you like something, you want to use it on your own setup, you can do it that way. If you like the sound, but you don't need the panel, what you can do is highlight these sounds, right mouse click, and choose Save as Favorite. And in this case, let's call this Essentials Demo Sound. That can be easily inserted by right mouse clicking and choosing Favorites. And I have a big list of favorites. So I don't, where are my E's? Here it is. So I could click on that, or I could do Command or Control P and type Essentials Demo Sound and hit Enter. And that will bring that particular sound right into a rack space. So all of these things are completely usable in anything that you are building. Now we have one other, which is the splits and layers. Now, this is kind of a cool rack space because in this rack space, we're actually pairing up multiple different types of sounds. We've also got some interesting flute sounds. Nope, clicking on the wrong place. Here's our flute. Organ. This is kind of a cool. And if we pop over to the wiring view, you'll see these are a bit more complex. But inside of each of these rack spaces, there is a little bit of information about the particular patch and how it's meant to work. And so if you're new to Gig Performer and you need a little bit of assistance understanding what's going on here, there is some assistance for you inside of these comment blocks. So these are the brand new templates that have been created specifically for Gig Performer Essentials. We do hope you'll try them out. And I do want to do one last call for questions. Arthur has another question. If you map the MIDI files to play on a specific channel, how do you know which channel is the right one? It's a great question. Basically, you pick the right one. So if you want to use different instruments, you can pick whatever channel you want and then just make sure that the instrument that you want to sound is responding to that channel, or alternatively, you can rechannelize to channel 1. So if you have 10 MIDI channels going on channels 1 through 10, then you can set everything to 1 through 10 and have a MIDI rechannelizer that then puts it back to channel 1 and just have it go to any VST that you like. So that is that's how you would do it. The MIDI channels themselves are a bit arbitrary. You can send it wherever you want it to go. Okay. Just make sure we've got no other questions. Yeah. All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you love Gig Performer Essentials. We're really excited about it. If you found this useful, do share it with a friend. This will give them a good overview of what's possible using Gig Performer Essentials. And we hope to see you again on Backstage with Gig Performer. Thank you so much, friends. Oh, we got one more question. Difference between Essentials and full version. So if you go to the website, there is a full comparison chart of exactly what the differences are. And I could sit here and try and list them off, but I definitely will miss certain things. So do go to the website, check out the comparison table. You'll see it is a very usable, powerful version of Essentials. And if you see there are certain things that you need that are not included in Essentials, then you can go for the full version. All right, friends, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.